Assalamualaikum and good evening. My name is Muhammad Zafik as a host for this talk here today. Two specialists and two special guests will be with us today. We have with us Miss Celestia and Mr. Fadli as our special guests. Beside that, we also have Mr. Jaren and Miss Eva as our specialists. Hi, Miss Celestia, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. Thank you, Miss Celestia. Okay, before I start, I wanna explain a little bit about Rohingya. From this point, I want to begin introducing about Rohingya. Rohingya of Myanmar are better known as refugees and stateless by international and local organizations such as United Nations High Commissioner of Refugees UNCHR, Human Rights Watch HRW, Amnesty International AI, and Suara Malaysia Suaram. Following the denial of citizenship by the Myanmar authorities, the Rohingya were forced to migrate from their area of residence in Arakan, Myanmar. They live in other countries such as Bangladesh, Arab country, Thailand, and Malaysia. The situation of the Rohingya, whether in Myanmar or in other countries, is gaining international attention as they face serious human rights discrimination. The issue of the human rights of Rohingya in Malaysia has also attracted the attention of various parties such as Human Rights Watch and Swaram. Okay. Okay, first I wanna ask our special guest, Miss Celestia. Can you describe how the life of Rohingya refugees in Malaysia and what is happening before they enter to Malaysia? Miss Miss Celestia, may you?
Alright. How do they live? They like a ball, They've been treated like a ball without any direction to live. Most of them being jailed by the government of Myanmar. The very worst for me is when the women being raped by the military. Can you imagine how they live with this kind of environment? When the women get pregnant and get birth, of course the women will take care of their child by herself without a father, right? You can imagine how this kind of environment. These people only depends on humanitarians from other country, including Malaysia. They depends on other country to give them medicine, food to continue their life because they don't have work, so they don't have money to buy anything. Some do not even get into the school because it's already full, including UNICEF. Look how do they develop themselves into a person if they can get an education. Some childs don't have parents, but they have to take care of their siblings, so they have to work to get money to buy food or and all they needed lah. From what I have heard, some of them do know how to speak in Malay because they want to survive. This is how they develop with their own way to survive. Before they enter Malaysia, their life are already in trouble, somewhere or somehow to struggle to live. That's all from me. Thank you. Back to Shafi.
Thank you for the explanation, Miss Celestia. Okay, next I wanna ask our next special guest, which is Mr. Fadli. Mr. Fadli, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm fine. How about you?
Okay, I'm fine, thank you. Okay, Mr. Fadli, can you explain how Rohingya people's life after they come to Malaysia and how they are doing after that situation? Mr. Fadli?
Thank you, Mr. Shafiq, for the question. So, after the Rohingya people or the refugee of Rohingya enter Malaysia, they face a lot of issues such as medical treatment issue, education issue among Rohingya teenagers, and security issues. So, for the medical treatment issue, Rohingya refugee in Malaysia face the insufficient of medical treatment. The elderly face serious health problems such as diabetes and high blood pressure. They know that they are really need a proper treatment, but they cannot afford it due to high medical expenses. For example, they need to pay minimum of 15 ringgit at government clinic, while at the government hospital, it may reach several hundred ringgit. And the cost of childbirth is another high burdensome expenses for them. Next issues is education issue among Rohingya teenagers. Malaysian government do not allow Rohingya teenagers to enter the government formal education, but Rohingya parents still try to enroll their children in schools close to where they live. In 2002 to 2004, the collaboration between UNHCR and Selangor Salam Foundation, there was an informal school in Cheras and was called Madrasah. So this school became the only educational opportunity for the Rohingya children. However, the madrasah has stopped operating in 2005 due to lack of funding from its sponsors. Last but not least, the security issue. When the Rohingya refugee come to Malaysia, the risk to be detained, jailed, and sent out to the border is high. So it is happened because they have document problems. Most Rohingya refugees that enter Malaysia do not have refugee status documents, even though they have registered with the UNHCR. The only document that Rohingya has is a temporary protection letter provided by the UNHCR. Unfortunately, the temporary protection letter was less respected as a valid document by the local authorities. Most of Rohingya have the experience of being detained by the Malaysian authorities. They usually will be sent to detention camps and wait to be sent out of the Malaysian border, which is the Malaysian-Thailand border, either the Padang Besar border in Perlis or Kelantan border. So the three issues was the most Rohingya people face when they enter Malaysia. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the explanation, Mr. Fadli. And now we will move to our specialist about this issue, which is Mr. Joharin and Ms. Eva. Hello, Mr. Joharin. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. First, I want to ask Mr. Joharin to explain what happened to Rohingya people in terms of human rights. Does any human right can be claimed, and does justice can be reached by them?
So
Mr.
to answer
Joharin.
this question, we must know first what is human right. So human right we can be defined as a basic right and freedom that we all have since start from the birth until the death. So example of human right, right to live and liberty, freedom from slavery, freedom of voice and opinion, freedom to have work and education. So in this case, Rohingya people had been discriminated by Myanmar government, their own government. So it started when Myanmar government denied Rohingya citizenship that make them become stateless in their own country. Not only that, in 2017, Myanmar government commit ethnic genocide against Rohingya people. Myanmar military responsible for killing Rohingya people, including children, women, gang rape, burning their village, and also shooting Myanmar citizens, shooting Rohingya citizens. Myanmar government also deny Rohingya human right, like freedom of movement. They also get denied from getting access to education, healthcare, food source, and getting tortured by military. This action from Myanmar government forced Rohingya people to leave their place and seek for protection from another country. So luckily for them, Rohingya, UNHR, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, provide them with UNHR card. With this card, they can have a right to have a work in Malaysia, and also they can open their own bank account. In terms of justice, for me, it's hard for them to gain justice because being minority ethnic at the nation that discriminated them. It's make them difficult to fight back. And what we can see right now, human right actually doesn't apply to everyone. We can see there's still an ethnic, a minority ethnic got discriminated by other people, by other nation, such as, yeah, we can see in this case Rohingya, Israel stealing land of Palestine, and many more. So yeah, after all, everyone in this world deserve freedom. Thank you. That's all from me.
Thank you, Mr. Johnny, for the clear explanation. Last but not least, we will go into the last person in this talk show, which is Miss Eva. Miss Eva, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay. My question is, what is your opinion about this case? What can we tie up towards Rohingya case that who did not get justice and were treated unfairly in their own country, so that they had to flee to Malaysia? Miss Eva?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Shafiq, for such a great question. All right. So, in this case, as a nutshell, I can say that because there is no clear policy on the position of the Rohingya in Malaysia, their status in Malaysia drifts between illegal immigrants and refugees. Although the government has issued a media statement to accept the Rohingya as refugees, however, as a country that has not signed the 1951 Refugee Convention, Malaysian law does not provide a space to accept any refugees, just like Mr. Fadli has mentioned before. We can see it on Immigrant Act 1959/1963. In fact, UNHCR documents given to the Rohingya are less recognized as valid documents. We also can see that researchers found that various problems are faced by the Rohingya in Malaysia in terms of economy, health, education, and security. The Rohingya are facing a life in a very uncertain future. Same as like Ms. Celestia has mentioned too, the uncertainty that is befalling is not only for the present generation, but it is also having a profound effect on future generation. So in this case, we can learn from these Rohingya refugees, which is to get a good side that the study also found. Although the Rohingya face a very difficult life in Malaysia, they still struggle in their daily life while looking forward to a better future. So yeah, that's all from me. I hope all of us can take a good side and learn a big lesson from this Rohingya case. I am strongly stand with Mr. Joharan's explanation that we should to create a better life, better future, and we can see the justice that can be claimed about human rights that all humans deserve to receive. Doesn't matter of from where they are, what are their skin color, position, or rank whatsoever. We are all human. We are all the same. That's all from me. Back to Shafiq.
Thank you, Miss Eva, for informative explanation. Okay, because of that, that is the end of our talk show. To end this talk show, I want to thanks to our special guests and our specialists for their time to succeed this talk show program. Thank you all. Until we meet again. Bye. Assalamualaikum.